Welcome to another episode of TXCPA Houston Virtual Rolodex. I am on a mission to share stories about the profession that I dearly love, and that's being an accountant. It's being a CPA. And we have kind of gotten a bad rap of being boring or having the green visor, a calculator, whatever. And I'm here to just kill that because accounting, CPAs, we are so much more than that. And so as part of the virtual Rolodex, you are going to get to hear from other CPAs who are awesome, who are unicorns in the midst of all these CPAs, and you're going to get to hear from them and from why they went to accounting, why they're a CPA, and honestly what they do, because we do not do the same thing across the board, and it's awesome. So today's guest is Scott. So Scott, please introduce yourself, who you work for, and a little bit about what you do.
Certainly. So, Scott Barcroft, I am based here in Houston, and I am a partner at RSM. So, I lead what we call our value creation solution set. So, we are part of a broader team that effectively focuses on nothing but deals. So, transactions. So, think about you're buying a company or you're selling a company. We are some of the folks that you call. And so that transactions group, as it's known, transaction advisory services, is mainly what I would call the financial diligence practice. And I was once part of that in my days at PwC. And here, the value creation team supports more of an operational lens to that. So we're actually not looking at balance sheets, P&Ls, cash flows. We're often looking at employee census files, production data. It could be, what else do we look at? You kind of take your pick. It's a little bit of whatever that deal necessitates. So our core focus area, we do three things, is what I would say. We focus on synergies. So you're buying a business. You want 1+1 not to equal 2. We make it 1.5. Maybe you're selling a business. And so we'll do an operational assessment. You go in and they say, we installed some new equipment 6 weeks ago. It's been running for 2 weeks. We believe that had we installed this equipment a year ago, our profitability would have been significantly greater. We go and figure out what that might have been. So there it's taking the data that's coming out of that machine, the output information, going back saying, what could this have been sold for? What's the profitability? Layering in the cost that may have been associated with that to estimate that EBITDA impact. And then lastly, we look at a lot of standalone analysis. So you're buying a business that's been carved out of something. It may be missing certain aspects. So we operationally map out what is wholly within a business, partially within a business, or not in the business, and think about how to top that up. So that could be people, that could be third-party costs, that could be IT systems. So we do that buy and sell side. So maybe you're divesting a business. We go through and help you think about what those costs are to help form that narrative, and then help you think through some of the separation considerations. So it's not so easy sometimes just to unplug. There's a lot of actions that have to take place behind the scenes to get a business carved out. So that's a lot of, that is the summary of what we do day in, day out. So it is not debits and credits. It's not P&Ls. It's not taxes. It's not audit. It's a lot of what I would call, we live in a world of assumptions.
But that's accounting a lot of times, and that's what the public doesn't see. We take this information, and yes, we put it in balance sheets and P&Ls, and but you're helping people strategize. And I think there are so many stories about CPAs who do that. So coming up in your career, first I want to ask why accounting? And
That's a good question. So I'll throw this out there. I actually thought I wanted to be a doctor.
okay.
Organic chemistry. That was the end of that journey. So at that point, I said, I don't think I want to do medicine. I'm not loving organic chemistry. And I just kind of fell into accounting. And frankly, it was a great decision. So I took the first course, whatever that is, principles of accounting.
Mm-hmm.
The whole concept of, and look, there's one thing you learn, debits equal credits. That sticks with you. And you just go, this is logical. It makes sense. But what it becomes is an interesting foundation. So then you go from that to whatever principles two. The management accounting class, actually, I think I found the most fascinating because here it's not just debits and credits. It's looking at production data. How does this all work? And that's kind of what led me a little bit to where I've ultimately landed today. So that's how the accounting got started. So
You're not the first one who says that you kind of fell into it. It was you knew you would have job security, is some of the stories I want, but it is logical. And
it
if you
is.
are going into like the medicine field, that makes sense of logical. We get a lot of engineers too. They
That's
they
that's
wanted to
where
be
that was
engineer.
option two.
Yeah.
If it wasn't going accounting, I would have probably become an engineer.
Yeah, so it's very so your career path. You
Yes.
you got your degree and then what happened?
Went a little this way, a little that. So I actually, as soon as I finished school, I ended up at Deloitte doing audit. So I joined with everybody else in September. I never had a busy season. So I kid you not, I joined, did the orientation, sitting there in the middle of September, and they said, "Hey, you need to get out to this client. We're working on year end." I said, "But it's September." They go, "Yeah, they have a 9:30 year end. SEC registrant." I kid you not, I had SEC registrants 9:30, 12:31, 3:31, 6:30, 7:31, right back to 9:30. So I had SEC reporting every single quarter, plus all the Qs I was doing. But my career and my skills, I rocketed up. So here I was, a second year associate, I think, and I'm out doing 10Ks, 10 Qs
Mm-hmm.
by myself sometimes, filling these things out and just go, I don't know if I should be doing this. But they said, nope, you've done more 10 Qs than just about anybody in this office by that point. So I was churning through those things. And so spent about 2.5 years there. And I decided audit probably was not for me long term. It was interesting. It's a great place to learn. You get through the balance sheet, the P&L, you understand the interplays, how it feeds the cash flow. So it's a critical training ground in a way. At the time, PwC was hiring, was literally across the street. I kid you not, you could see their offices from one another. They were looking for people in financial diligence, which that core skill set you need audit. You're not going to succeed very well without that. So I went and had breakfast with them one day, lunch the next, and I think then the next day they said, "When can you start?" So I ended up there for about 2 years. This was in Dallas, and then opportunity came up to go to Germany with PwC. Went over there on what was supposed to be a 2-year tour, turned into almost 7. So I was having a good time. It was very interesting, but there you're working cross-border deals.
Mm-hmm.
They did a lot more sell-side work. It wasn't just buy-side, which was the domain of the U.S. So you were adding tools to the toolkit. You're obviously getting to see a bit of the world, familiarize yourself a little bit with some different cultures. So I was having a good time, hence the
Mm-hmm.
7 years. Came back, was with the practice about a year, and then a client actually hired me. We did a large take private for a big Japanese company, and they said, "Look, we need somebody to come in here and help us with." Effectively, they had about a dozen portfolio companies. So this started the foray into what I'd say is my more operational career.
Mm-hmm.
Went over there, we helped them build budgets. We helped them, let's say, trim inventories, optimize costs, fight off lawsuits, replace management teams. I mean, it was literally everything. So, when you're sitting there being deposed over lawsuits, it's both, let's call it a little scary, but also thrilling in a way. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so just things you would have never done if you had just stuck with audit or tax. So it was very interesting, but did that for a couple of years. But you go from a deals environment to corporate Japanese, things slow down very quickly. It's a massive culture shift.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really interesting. We helped them sell a couple of businesses. And at that point, I said, I think it's time to go back to the deal world. So I ended up back at PwC, but in a group that they called Delivering Deal Value. This was much more focused on what I do today. So it was a lot of synergy work, standalone. There was some operational and separate operational, what do they call integration management office and separation management offices. So a lot of the project components to buying and selling businesses. So I was there for a few years, and then an opportunity came up with RSM. They've been calling me for years saying, "We'd love to have you. We'd love to have you." And at the Big Four, your focus is big. So you're working for the GEs, the Baker Hughes, the Johnson and Johnsons of the world. So you're kind of a small cog in a big machine.
Mm-hmm.
RSM, what's different is unique middle market focus. So here you're often having conversations with business owners, principals, folks who are truly making decisions. So it's been an interesting journey, and we created this value creation practice from nothing. 4 years ago, we were zero, and we built a 20-person practice. It's a multi-million-dollar enterprise now within the business. So it's been very, very interesting.
And I think that is so amazing because you just showed how someone from college, one within 2 years was doing 10Ks, 10 Qs because you applied yourself and they saw you as a star. I mean, honestly, because that is not easy.
No.
So you saw that. If you, let's say you were going to have a conversation for the just recently graduate Scott, what is a couple pieces of advice that you probably gave yourself through all these years, but you would have just gleaned if you would have had it when you graduated college? What was a couple pieces of advice you wish you would have had?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I would say be a sponge. So you have to be open and willing to kind of take whatever comes your way, absorb that. And look, if you go into the accounting profession as a graduate out of school, you're going to have some difficult weeks. You're going to have some easy weeks. That's just the ebb and flow of the business.
Mhm.
That continues. Obviously, if you get into deals, you have to be a little off your rocker to do that kind of stuff, but in a good way. And so it's just absorb, absorb, absorb. Always put your hand up, take anything that comes your way, and you will rise to the top very quickly. So, and then I can give you a piece of advice that I actually took that somebody gave me, I think my third day. They said, when you take a vacation, leave the country. I said, what do you mean? I said, if you tell somebody you're leaving the country, you just get a good break. And you have to have a break here because
Mhm.
the job is intense. It's great. It's interesting. It's engaging. I mean, I do often wonder what else I might do, and I can't quite figure that out. So I've stuck to the profession now, 20 years or so. And every time I think, oh, maybe I'll go do something else, I just don't know what.
Yeah.
But you do need that time to switch off and go do something else. So make sure you get that time, but absorb while you're there, keep at it. And like I said, you will rise to the top quickly.
I love that because that is one of the things that I always say, like growing up in the profession was it became a pride thing of I don't take vacation. And like looking back, that was the worst thing. And so when I talk to students and talk to young professionals, I'm like, you earn that vacation, yeah, take that vacation. You leave that laptop and phone at home. Do not do what Mama Christie says,
Right.
does because I am breaking that habit, but it's a hard habit. When you look at the future of accounting, what do you see? Because we hear about the pipeline problem, like there's not enough accountants coming in, not enough CPAs. But what do you see for the future of accounting in your mind?
It's a good question. And it's funny because we were just having this conversation internally around, and I know this is the hot topic, the role of AI. I'm kind of hard pressed to say what I do see the future. I think there's going to be a blend of greater use of technology and bringing that critical thinking skill because everybody says, "Oh, AI is going to take all these jobs." I'm not worried about that at all. I had a conversation yesterday with a client that AI is never going to be able to have that conversation because you're pivoting, you're coming up with different solutions to this. And so, as whether you're in accounting, obviously, I should say audit, tax, or the consulting side of this, there's a dynamic piece of this that you're always going to have to address. I think students coming in now in some of the professions going to have to figure out how to maximize the use of that technology. So the days of let's call it stuffing envelopes and sending out audit confirmations for AR, I think that's over,
Mhm.
and that's probably not a bad thing. Nobody wants to stuff envelopes, but how do you use that technology to your advantage? So it's going to be a very interesting challenge. And I think to fill the pipeline and get students excited, you have to bring out what I might call the consultative side of this. It's not just, as you say, the green eye shades, the calculator, the 10 key, and banging out numbers and debits equal credits. That's just the foundation. But a lot of what accountants do, audit, tax, or consulting side, is advising clients. It's bringing those interesting solutions and how do they make their businesses better. And I think that's the exciting part.
And I would say those in industry, you are going to be coming to the table with those ideas, with those thoughts and working with people like Sky, like, will this work? Will this not work? And those who shine are going to be the ones who are innovative. Those are going to be the critical thinkers. And what are some skills that students and young professionals could start really getting good at right now to help them with those critical thinking skills? And
Well, I'd even say there's two skills to work on for students right now. Two is writing and presentation, 100%. So, a lot of what we end up doing gets synthesized in a report. And
mhm,
those reports have to be snappy, well written. Nobody wants to, let's put it this way, nobody wants to write 50 pages. Nobody wants to review 50 pages, and the clients don't want to read 50 pages. So, how do you get 50 to 25?
mhm,
And so being able to write succinctly, clearly, cleanly with impact is critical. And that goes to emails, that goes to reports, that goes to everything. That's one I'd say continue to push. And I think in the accounting profession, people think numbers. The
yeah,
words matter too. The numbers are what they are, but you've got to be able to tell the story behind the numbers. So how do you tell that story cleanly, quickly, and succinctly? And then the other thing is just that interpersonal skills. And this is where I will be blunt. COVID was devastating for our industry,
mhm,
absolutely devastating. And it put people sitting in their parents' basements or guest rooms working for 2 years. People got a little maybe addicted to the, whether you want to call it remote or hybrid environment. And what you've lost is that ability to read the room, to engage with your clients, to
mhm.
engage, in our case, with targets when we're dealing with one of these buy side transactions. And it comes across in some of these Zoom calls or video calls when people are not getting the fact somebody is frustrated. You've got to learn how to back off. So if you have opportunities to go, I don't want to say cliche things like networking events, but go to some, but go out with people. If you're on a team, get that team in person. Don't sit there and accept the fact that everybody's going to work remote. Go to the office. Look for places to develop those skills and become comfortable around others. And so as you work your way up, you become comfortable dealing with the clients, dealing with others, bankers, lawyers, whomever else you're going to interact with, because you at some point will get to be facing some pretty senior people and you want to be comfortable there.
Those are great pieces of advice. Thank you, Scott, so much for that. Especially the networking plug. I'm going to say that I always say with membership associations such as TXCPA Houston and wherever you're listening to this in the world, you have a professional association. Get out and network is the safest place to make the mistakes because there will be people there who are more than willing to mentor and coach you and they
Mm-hmm.
won't fire you. It's a safe place to gain leadership skills, networking skills, plus just, pick the brains of peers. That's what I always love about coming to networking events is, you know, we try to leave business at the office, but if there's things going on and we get into a room full of like-minded people, we're going to ask opinions because we want
Mm-hmm.
to know what people are thinking. So thank you, Scott, so much for sharing your story,
For sure.
um, your interesting job that you have, which I think is really cool about beyond the operations but you're taking that accounting knowledge and bringing it together for your clients. I appreciate your time today.
No,
And
absolutely.
do you have any last minute words for the audience?
That's a really, you got some stumpers for me. Stick at it. I mean, look, it's a very interesting profession and it can take you a long way and take you in a lot of different directions. I just think about some of my colleagues, ex-colleagues who started out as auditors. They are CFOs. Sometimes they're COOs. Others are doing private equity. Some have gone to banking. Some have taken it a completely different direction and they're lawyers. But at the end of the day, it gives you a really solid foundation to do so many different things and evaluate the world sometimes in a logical way. So, like I said, every time I think about trying to find something else to do, I just can't seem to find anything else.
Because this is where you're meant to be. Well, thank you,
I'm
Scott.
pretty sure that's the case.
I appreciate your time today. And thank
Absolutely.
you to the audience for listening, to viewing this. Scott's LinkedIn information will be in the show notes. So if you want to hit him up and just say hi to him, he would love that. And I
Absolutely.
thank each and every one of you. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate it.